And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and these are the most popular color combinations in the Commander format. These are the colors that everyone is playing currently. I do this video about every year and a half or so. I want to leave a pretty big gap between the last one, see what has changed from the last time, and in fact, this time I will actually be showing what has changed from the last time. I did this video about a year and a half ago, and I'm going to actually show the difference from the last time I did it. I think it's interesting to look at these kind of things. I'm going to be doing so by using EDH Rec. I'm simply counting the decks of the commanders that people are playing, because obviously in the Commander format, the color identity of your commander decides the colors that you are playing. There is no perfect way to do this, I don't think, but the way I do it is I only count the top commanders. The last couple times I counted the top 12. I'll be going 16 deep this time. I'll be counting the top 16 commanders. The reason I do this is because I think that gives you a more accurate idea of what colors people are playing. The top commanders are the ones that are really going to decide what the most popular colors are in the format. If you counted all the commanders, it would give a very unbalanced skew towards the monocolored commanders, because of course the monocolored commanders have hundreds of commanders to choose from, which is way more than other color combinations, but also a lot of those commanders are just invisible in the Commander format. You're just never going to see them, right? They're a blip on the radar. They're essentially a rounding error. It also causes a lot of issues with the other problem here, which is the partner pairings, the backgrounds, the doctor's companions, all that kind of different stuff. There's so many different variations on combinations now that what do you include and what do you not include? It would be silly to try to include everything. So I'm only including the top 16 commanders in this countdown. I'm also not including 4-color because, of course, 4-color really doesn't have enough options to include, although I will say the Ink Treader combination, or I guess non-black combination, does have now 4 commanders in that combination, and some of them are really popular. That actually is getting there as far as being included in these numbers. However, I still don't think it's enough. For example, colorless, which again, I can sort of include here. I mean, I included it last time, but it's always going to be at the bottom, has 34,900. So even colorless has more than the non-black color combination. If colorless was included on this list, I mean, I guess I could include this on this list. Let's call it number 27, but of course it is always going to be at the bottom other than the 4-color combinations. That being said, let's get to the actual list, and coming in at the bottom, number 26 is probably going to be the very first big surprise for everybody. Mono blue is now at the bottom. That's right, 59,987 decks. It is down 3 spots from the last time I did this. What is the explanation here, I wonder? Of course, I'm just looking at the numbers. The most popular mono blue commander is Urza, Lord High Artificer. 10,758 decks currently. That's pretty good, but if you compare that number to all the other color combinations on this list, not great. I will also be counting the amount of decks over 5,000. So how many commanders have over 5,000 decks on EDH Rec? Mono blue only has 4. Now, if this seems baffling, let's check out number 25, which is mono white. That's right, mono white is more popular in the format now than mono blue, but when you actually look at the commanders, I don't think it's that surprising. So coming in at number 1 for mono white is Ggary, Font of Hope, which has 15,000 decks, right? So a full 5,000 decks more than the number 1 mono blue commander. And again, comparing the number 2 commanders, we have for mono blue, Orvar the Allform, 7,400 decks. For Light Paws, 8,000, right? So quite a bit more. The number 3 spot for mono white, Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, 5,600 decks. For mono blue, it's Talron Sky Summoner with only 5,000. So there is a pretty significant difference even just in the top commanders here. So again, it might seem surprising because everyone likes blue in the commander format, right? Nobody likes white. I would say white is doing just fine in the commander format now, and they've also been printing some really fantastic commanders. So for the first time since I've been doing this, mono white is not at the bottom. And so of course, for that reason, 7. White is up 1 spot from the last time I did this. It also has 4 commanders with over 5,000 decks. So white doing pretty good. Next up, maybe not a big surprise, but actually a really big change from last time is Boros coming in at number 24, 63,376 decks. And a lot of people who have never watched these videos before might not be surprised by this. However, this is actually a big drop. One of the biggest drops from the last time I did it. This is down 5 spots from the last time I did this video. The reason why is because Boros was actually really flying high for a while. As I just talked about in my Outlaws of Thunder Junction video, every single set they're coming out with a new interesting Boros commander, right? Because of course Boros was really suffering for a long time, and then Wizard of the Coast clearly was putting in a lot of effort to make these really interesting Boros commanders, like the number 1 and 2 Boros commanders, Wynota Join Our Forces and Feather the Redeemed, right? A lot of interesting things you can do with those commanders. However, remember the numbers I just talked about from mono blue and mono white, 10,000 and 15,000 decks at the top. Wynota, the most popular Boros commander, only has 8,794 decks, and Feather only has 8,323. So not even a single commander over 10,000. It also has only 4 commanders over 5,000. Next up, Oscar at 6,745. No surprise there. And coming in at number 4 is a partner pairing. That's right, I do include partner pairings on this list, and Rograk and Ardennes are a very popular, one of the most popular partner pairings in the entire format, and it is the 4th most popular, technically, Boros commander with 5,600 decks. So the fact that a partner pairing is number 4, I think says a lot about, yes, there are actually a lot of really interesting Boros commanders now, but the interest in Boros seems to be waning a little, right? For a while there, they were just cranking out these super interesting Boros commanders, but now it seems like people aren't going after it nearly as much. Next up at 23, mono green, 64,885. This is up 1 spot from last year. And again, this is another one where at the top, not super impressive. Finn the Fangbearer is the most popular mono green commander. It has been for quite a while. Only 7,600 decks on EDH Rec. That is the lowest out of any color combination. So anyone surprised by green being this low, maybe this is the reason why, right? Ayula Queen among bears, 2nd most popular. Mono green commander has only 5,800 decks. That's it. So it almost surprises me that green is actually higher than white. The reason why, though, I think is because it just sustains a little better, right? So for example, if I look at the 16th most popular commander in mono green, Thunbreaker of Silence has 2,400 decks. That would be the last one that I would have included here, obviously. Whereas SRAM, Senior Edificer, would be the last one I included for white, has only 1,800 decks. So although white is more top heavy, green is a little more evenly distributed. It also has only 4 commanders with over 5,000 decks, but it has 19 commanders with over 2,000 decks. So that was an interesting stat I also looked at, where as you get down, the numbers don't drop off nearly as much, which I think is pretty important. Coming in at number 22 is Selesnya, a color combination that's one of my favorites, is really not doing super well in the commander format. It has not changed at all from last year. It's in the exact same spot, 64,925 decks. And the reason for this is pretty obvious. There's only 3 commanders with over 5,000 decks. The only one on this list that has less than 4 is Selesnya. The top commander here, Sithis Harvest Hand, has 11,000 decks. Pretty good. So again, we do have a commander here with over 10,000 decks. However, it drops off significantly to Aroba Roar of the World, which is a pretty old commander and still the 2nd most popular in these color combinations with 5,691 decks. So we're really top heavy here, I think, with our number 1 commander, and then it falls off significantly. Again, this might be a situation where there's just not a lot of really interesting commanders in the format. I think white and green are a phenomenal combination here. You got the green ramp and maybe green card draw, the white removal. There's really not a lot of holes in the game of a white-green deck, in my opinion. Maybe just not the commanders people are looking for. Coming in at number 21, our first 3-color combination, it is Ggary. This might be another big surprise for people. There were several of these that I did where after I counted the number, I was pretty shocked by the number I got, so I went back and counted again just to make sure. Ggary only has 70,719. And the reason I was so shocked is because of some of the numbers from the other 3-color combinations, which you will see, which are way far higher. Ggary being the lowest 3-color combination, does that surprise anybody? The number 1 commander is Kaikar Wind's Fury, and again, not even 10,000 decks. We don't have one commander in Ggary colors with 10,000 decks, only 9,388 for Kaikar. Coming in at number 2 is Hanada Dawn Crowned, a commander that I thought was going to be one of the most popular in the entire format, only 8,000 decks. So that's really surprising for me. Narset Enlightened Exile, a commander that just came out last year, has 6,500. There is 6 commanders with over 5,000 decks on EDH Rec. That's not too bad, right? That's the most we've had so far. However, again, it does trail off quite a bit. Ggary is down 1 spot from last year, so I guess not a big difference from last year, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Coming in at number 20, the one I had to count at least 2 more times because I couldn't believe where it ended up. Bant comes in at number 20, the second least popular 3-color combinations, 76,296. This one was really shocking. What's the explanation here? There are 7 commanders that are over 5,000. That's pretty good. We got Arcades, a Strategist, coming in number 1 with 14,000 decks. That's a pretty good top commander. Chulane, Teller of Tales, 7,000 decks, pretty good, although that commander has fallen off a lot in popularity. We look at Bernard, Ginger Sculptor, that we got last year, already 5,200 decks, so doing pretty good. Again, if I look at the 16th place commander, the one I counted last, Kroos, Defense Contractor, though, only has 2,000 decks, so it does trail off quite a bit. This is down 7 spots from the last time I did this. This is the biggest minus of any of the color combinations. We're down 7 spots from the last time. What's the explanation here? I guess they just haven't been coming out with enough interesting Bant commanders in the last year. Again, some of these color combinations just get more attention in any given year, right? Again, I think it's a great color combination in the format. Doesn't seem to be one people are going after. And next up at number 19 is Azorius. That's right, Azorius is more popular than Bant or Ggary. I know sometimes these don't make sense because it's like, okay, well, we got the same colors here and then you got another color added on, but yet this one's more popular. It's the commanders, right? The commanders is really what matters most here. So Azorius, 78,982 decks, 7 commanders that are over 5,000. Of course, the big help we got here for Azorius was Shorikai Genesis Engine, 16,781 decks. It's one of the most popular commanders in the entire format. And the first time I did this, Azorius was almost dead last. In fact, it was the second least popular behind Mono White. I remember that very well. And the reason why is we just hadn't gotten any good Azorius commanders in a long, long time. Brago, King Eternal, was the number 1 Azorius commander forever. Still has 7,854 decks. It's the number 2 commander still. But then after the first time I did this, we started getting a lot of great Azorius commanders. Millicent Restless Revenant was one of them. 6,274 decks. That is the 3rd most popular Azorius commander. They really went to town on Azorius. Again, as I mentioned in the video last year, Azorius became the new Boros, where it just wasn't getting any love for a long time, and then they started cranking out interesting commanders. Hilda of the Icy Crown, certainly the most popular from last year, already has 6,100 decks on EDH Rec. That's a great one. It's in 4th place for Azorius. However, again, just like Boros, they were giving it some attention, and then I think they backed off a little. It's actually down 3 spots from the last time I did this. So it was really hurting in the format the first time, and then it skyrocketed up. It was the biggest improvement from the last time I did this, but now they've backed off a little and it's dropped a few spots, probably where it should be now. Coming in at number 18, Rakdos. 80,560 decks. Of course, the big reason is because the most popular Rakdos commander, Prosper Tomebound, is a really popular commander in the format. 14,749 decks. That's a lot. It does drop off quite a bit. Rakdos, Lord of Riots, is actually number 2. Kind of surprising. 6,600 decks. That's a big drop off. Less than half, obviously. And then we get to the third place commander, is one that just came out last year, actually. Rowan, Scion of War, with less than 6,000 decks. There are only 5 commanders with over 5,000 decks. That's not a lot, right? We trail off quite a bit. This is down 3 spots from the last time I did this. We also got Obnixilis Captive Kingpin, the 5th most popular commander in Rakdos colors. We got that last year. We got Judith Carnage Connoisseur last year as well. I mean, I guess it's not bad. It is number 18. It's not like it's right at the bottom. I thought this one would be a little more popular though. Coming in at number 17 is Mono Red. That's right. Mono Red is doing just fine in the commander format. 81,234. In fact, this is the exact same spot it was at last time. It's just trucking along, doing just fine. It really is. There's always going to be the commanders, like of course, Krenko Mob Boss, which is always going to be one of the most popular commanders in the entire format. 17,930 decks. It is the 10th most popular commander in the entire format. It is by far the most popular monocolored commander in the entire format. So that's always going to help. Magda Brazen Outlaw coming in number 2, 9,400 decks. So we have almost 10,000 decks for the number 2 commander, right? Again, if you think about the comparison to those other colors, that's pretty darn good. Now, there is only 4 commanders with over 5,000 decks. Of course, that's not great. It's not as good as Azorius. It's not as good as Bant. However, there is 20 commanders with over 2,000 decks. So again, we really sustain as we go down the list. It doesn't really fall off a cliff like a lot of other color combinations do, especially a lot of the other monocolored combinations. We got some really powerful commanders at the top, but we also got some pretty popular ones as we go down the list as well. So mono red being maybe what I would consider the least powerful color in the commander format is doing just fine, likely because of what the commanders are doing. Coming in at number 16 is Grul. So Grul doing pretty good, 83,063 decks. It is up 5 spots from the last time I did this. So Tovalar Dire Overlord is the number 1 commander there. Not a big surprise. Over 10,000 decks. So we do have a top commander with over 10,000 decks. That's one thing I look at here. Kibu Uktabi Prince, 7,000. Not too shabby. The second most popular Grul commander now. That is a very interesting commander. I'm trying to figure out, though, why the change from last time, because as I look at the commanders here, all of them have existed since before the last time I did this. Raga Draga, Omnath Locus of Rage, of course, very old commander, Faldorn, Dreadwolf Herald, Chishiro. These are all commanders that existed before I did the last ranking here. The biggest climber here, Itali Primal Conqueror, at least that came out last year, right? 5,900 decks already on EDH Rex. So we do have a commander from last year that has almost 6,000 decks. And we also have mainstays, right? Like Xenagos and Rurik Thar. They're both still doing really, really good, right? So we are getting new commanders that are sustaining the numbers here. We also have these old commanders that have been around forever that are sticking in there. There are 8 commanders in Grul that have over 5,000 decks. 8. That's pretty good, right? That's the most we've had so far. And we have 25 commanders that have over 2,000 decks. So pretty darn good. So I guess, although maybe you wouldn't think of Grul as one of the more popular color combinations in the format, I mean, I guess we're sort of at the halfway point here. So I don't know if I would call it really popular, but it certainly is doing all right. And it's doing quite a bit better from last year. The biggest climber, though, from last year by far is Abzan with 83,442 decks. And if you watch the last one I did, of course, Abzan was right towards the bottom. In fact, it was 25th last year and now it's 15. Big difference. 10 spots. This is the biggest climber from the last time I did this. By far the biggest climber, the biggest change all around. And of course, what I talked about in that video is, well, we're just not getting a lot of good abzan commanders, right? This was the color combination that was suffering the most. And in fact, Nethroi Apex of Death, which was at the time the most popular abzan commander, and Carador Ghost Chieftain, which was the second most popular abzan commander, well, guess what? Those guys are now number 7 and number 8. We got a ton of great abzan commanders last year. In fact, in the very next set, we got Ixil Scion of Atraxa, which came out like 3 weeks after I did that video, which has 5,656 decks. Shortly after that, we got Thalion the Gitrog monster, which is now the most popular abzan commander, 9,573 decks. We also got Anakthea Hand of Erebos coming out in Commander Legends last year, which has 6,965 decks. We also got Frodo and Sam for all those Lord of the Rings fans, which has 9,459 decks. So we got a lot of fantastic abzan commanders from last year, and this color combination has skyrocketed in popularity from last year. Biggest change on this list by far. Next up, Orzhov, coming in at number 14, 85,823 decks, and this one also is up from last year 4 spots. We got Teysa Karlov, still number 1 commander in Orzhov colors, not a big surprise, 13,077 decks. Number 2, Lysa Shroud of Dusk. For me, this is still kind of a surprise. I've always been surprised at the popularity of this commander. 9,316 decks, doing really, really good. From last year, we got Ariette of the Charmed Apple, already the 3rd most popular Orzhov commander. 8,978 decks, the most popular commander from that set by far. People really like that one a lot. We also got Brimaz, Blight of Ereskos from last year with 5,388 decks already on EDH Rec. So this color combination doing just fine in the commander format. Again, we got the mainstays that people really love to play, and we also got some great new commanders from last year as well. Coming in at number 13 is probably not a huge surprise. The most popular monocolor is indeed mono black, 86,960. It's up 1 spot from last year, so generally the same. There are 8 commanders in mono black with over 5,000 decks. That is a big, big difference from all the other monocolors, which only have 4, right? Blue, white, green, and red all have only 4 commanders with over 5,000 decks. And Mono Black's got 8. It's got double. That's a big reason why it is way more popular than the other color combinations. Crick, Son of Yawgmoth, of course, number 1. 11,252 decks. Shieldred the Apocalypse, of course, there's a commander that just absolutely skyrocketed in popularity in the format. 8,645 decks coming in at number 2. There are 4 commanders in Mono Black with over 8,000 decks. Wow, that's a big difference from all the other monocolors, right? So easily the most popular monocolor in the format is mono black. Coming in at number 12 is Izzet. That's right. Izzet is a little bit lower than what I had expected. And this again is another one that I had to count again because I was surprised how low it was. 89,463. This is down 3 spots from last year. So there is a bit of a drop off here. And this one is maybe a little difficult to analyze. If you look at the top 2 commanders in Izzet colors, Niv Mizzet Pair Run, 12,000 decks, Gearson Starn, Kellermorph, 12,000 decks. There is 2 commanders here with over 12,000 decks. That's really, really good. That's better than any color combination we've come across so far. There is 6 commanders with over 5,000 decks. That's pretty good. What's going wrong here? I don't know. I guess, again, there hasn't been a lot of really popular ones from last year. Ovika, Enigma Goliath, doing okay. 4,300 decks. That's the most popular commander in Izzet colors that came out last year. I would say, and one of the reasons I don't have myself an Izzet deck is the Izzet commanders tend to just do all the same stuff usually. Obviously, the Spell Slinger theme is very popular in these colors. That's what most of the commanders are doing. Every time a new set comes out, we get another Izzet commander that's doing some variation of the instant and sorcery theme. And so for that reason, you know, even though we do get good commanders, we often get a lot of commanders that are just doing the same thing as we already have in Izzet colors. That might be a reason for it. I'm not saying they all do that, but they certainly do it a lot. That's the one thing where I would really like to see them get away from is it spell slinging commanders. There's already like 50 of them in the format. We certainly don't need any more. This was kind of a surprise for me. I imagine it was a surprise for a lot of other people as well. Coming in at number 11, Jund, 91,038 decks. This one is up one spot from last year. Generally the same. Korvald, Fey, Cursed King, of course. Number one still, 14,842 decks. Of course, this was the most popular commander in the entire format briefly. However, Henzi Toolbox Tori, again, this is another commander that I can't believe how popular it is. 13,687 decks. It might actually take the top spot from Korvald one day. I don't know. People really seem to like this commander a lot. So again, we got two really popular commanders in Jund colors, which helps a lot. There is 8 commanders with over 5,000 decks. Pretty good. From last year, we got Slimefoot and Squee, already the 5th most popular Jund commander with 5,795 decks. So Jund's doing just fine. Coming in at number 10, Simic, which again, every time I do this, people are a little surprised where Simic is. There's just this assumption about Simic that it's one of the most popular color combinations of the format. I mean, I guess it's in the top 10. That's pretty good, but usually people rate it a lot higher because they just assume everybody wants to play Simic, I guess. 92,037. This is down 2 spots from the last time I did it. So it dropped a little bit the last time, and now it's dropped a little bit again. So Simic is definitely a color combination that has slowly been dropping over the years. Again, you look at the top commanders, Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy number 1, Icy Tyrant of Gyre Strait number 2, 9,700 and 9,600 respectively. So again, we have no commander here that is over 10,000 decks. So very, very low as compared to a lot of these other ones, right? However, it sustains really, really well. Hackball of the Surging Soul, commander that just came out last year. Wow, is this one ever popular? 7,468 decks already. One of the most popular commanders from last year, I'd say. Already number 3 for Simic. Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief, also over 7,000 decks. Volo, Guide to Monsters, also over 7,000 decks. So we're doing pretty good here in Simic. We do have a lot of really popular commanders. We got a lot of mainstays as well, commanders that will always be popular in the commander format. I wouldn't say we got a lot of bangers last year. It looks like there's only one here from last year that's really, really popular. So Simic is definitely a color combination that has fallen off a lot in the last few years. Coming in at number 9, we got Temur, 94,518 decks, up one spot from last year. 7 commanders with over 5,000 decks, which is not bad. Only 13 commanders with over 2,000 decks though. Only 13, really? Again, Grul had 25. Why is this color combination so popular? And of course, a big reason why is because Miram Sentinel Worm is one of the most popular commanders in the entire format. In fact, it's currently number 3. And I'm not leaving this one alone, guys. I really just don't get it. I mean, this is the 3rd most popular commander in the entire format right now. Wow. I mean, it copies dragons. That's all it does. It just copies dragons. I will say it's very interesting that the number 2 and number 3 commanders in the entire format are doing Dragon Tribal. Just saying. Not sure if that means anything. I mean, come on. So you guys got to admit this is a little bit surprising. Again, especially since the 2nd most popular commander in the entire format is Dragon Tribal. The 3rd most popular is also Dragon Tribal. Wow. 21,496 decks. Again, when you have one commander that is that popular, it really moves a color combination up this list. The 2nd most popular commander in Temur colors is no slouch either, though. Animar Soul of Elements, 14,325 decks. So the 2nd most popular commander in this color combination has more decks than most of the most popular commanders from every other one we've talked about so far, right? So really, really top heavy here. We got 2 commanders that are super popular in the format in this color combination. Magus Lucia Kane, number 3. Wow. Warhammer 40k commander coming in at number 3 here with 8,500 decks. People really like this commander a lot. Xyrus, the Writhing Storm, number 4, 7,200 decks. So doing just fine is Temur colors. No question about it. Again, I would say this is a very top-heavy color combination, right? Again, if we go to the 16th most popular commander here, Sir Dragonclaw. This commander actually used to be a really popular one. The reason why is because there just wasn't any Temur commanders to choose from. You had Rico of the Two Reflections, which was the most popular Temur commander when I first started playing the format. Sir Dragonclaw was number 2 because there really wasn't a whole lot else. Now he's number 16 and he's only got 1,800 decks. So again, that is really low for the 16th commander, right? We're under 2,000 decks here. So that means Temur is really top heavy. In fact, I would argue it is the most top heavy color combination. The top commanders here are really pulling it up the list. Coming in at number 8 is Sultai. And again, this one was a little surprising for me because Sultai, of course, really popular color combination in the format. It's got the colors that people love so much, right? This is why Boros is so low on this list, because the non-Boros colors, Sultai, are really popular, right? They're the most popular colors in the commander format. Muldroth of the Gravetide, of course, number 1, was the most popular commander in the entire format for a while. Has fallen off quite a bit, 14,749 decks. Still really good, of course, but this is now the 21st ranked commander in the format, so we're not even in the top 20 anymore. That's pretty surprising for such a powerful open-ended commander. That is pretty shocking, I will say. Coming in at number 2, Zaxara, the Exemplary, 10,252 decks. So we do have 2 commanders with over 10,000 decks, and in fact, we have 3 commanders with over 10,000 decks. Yark the Desecrated also has over 10,000 decks. So this is our first color combination to have 3 commanders with over 10,000 decks. That is definitely moving this one up the list, but I don't think this requires any explanation, right? Everyone knows Sultai colors are really popular. Damia Sage of Stone, again, that is the 16th commander, the last one I am including in here, and it has over 2,800 decks still. Again, a really popular, powerful commander throughout the history of the format. There are 11 commanders with over 5,000 decks in Sultai colors. Even the Wise Mothman, which came out in Fallout just a little while ago, already has 5,200 decks. Wow. People are liking that one a lot. Easily the most popular commander from that set. So Sultai's doing just fine. I mean, 8 in the format, pretty good. Probably a little bit lower than what some people would expect. Again, this is another color combination just like Simic that used to be really, really popular, and it fell off a little bit last time I did this, and now has fallen off a little bit more as well. Getting into the top 7 here, Ggary is more popular than Sultai. 111,720 decks on EDH Rec. So we've cracked the 6 digits here. This is actually down 3 spots from last year. That's how good Ggary was doing in the format for a while. I mean, it still is doing really good. And of course, you just have to look at the top commanders to understand why. Lathril Blade of Elves, again, another commander that I will forever be shocked at how popular it is. I mean, I'm sure it's good, and black and green are great color combinations, but this is the 4th most popular commander in the entire format. Number 4, really? Wow, 20,417 decks. That's a lot of decks for one commander. Number 2, Chatterfang Squirrel General, 13,000 decks. Pretty darn good. Marin Clan Toth, again, another mainstay that will always be a really popular commander in the format, 13,000 decks. So we have 3 commanders here that have over 13,000 decks in these colors. Shelob, Child of Ungoliant from last year is our most popular commander that came out from, of course, the Lord of the Rings set. Already almost 7,000 decks on EDH Rec. So we got some pretty popular commanders last year as well. Smeagol Helpful Guide, also 3,800 decks. So even the Lord of the Rings set gave Ggary some help here. Maybe the biggest surprise, though, is Yargle Multani. This is a real funny one. Far and away the most popular vanilla commander in the format. 4,400 decks on EDH Rec, despite the fact that it has no abilities at all. It does have 18 power, though, so I don't know how much it is people actually building around that, how much it is the meme factor. People really like that commander a lot, though. Ggary doing just fine in the commander format, though, I think. Coming in at number 6 is Grixis. 114,409 decks. This is up 1 spot from last year. And again, I don't think a big surprise here. There are 12 commanders with over 5,000 decks on EDH Rec from this color combination. It's doing really, really well. And yes, still the most popular Grixis commander is Nekusar the Mind Razor. This might be one of the most beloved commanders of all time. The fact that it is sticking around with this kind of popularity for so long, I think says a lot. 15,000 decks still on EDH Rec. Pretty incredible. However, coming up on its heels fast is Sauron the Dark Lord. Of course, just came out last year in Lord of the Rings. It is easily the most popular commander from Lord of the Rings. Already 13,579 decks on EDH Rec. Is it possible that it can finally dethrone Nekusar at some point? Maybe, maybe not. Place your bets now. There is a bit of a drop-off here. Again, remember, we had 3 really popular commanders here. For those other color combinations, Be'lakor the Dark Master, number 3, only has 8,800 decks. Now, that's not bad, but it's not even close to those other colors that we just talked about. But remember, 12 decks with over 5,000, and we have 27 commanders with over 2,000. That is by far the most. There are 27 commanders with over 2,000 decks on EDH Rec for Grixis colors. That's pretty incredible, right? So even as we get way down the list, we still have some pretty popular commanders, right? For me, 2,000 is a number that you're going to see that commander fairly regularly. That's why I grabbed that number. And Grixis has a lot of those. Probably a big reason why it's number 6 on this list. Coming in at number 5, this might surprise a few people, is Naya. If you're playing along at home and you have your own list, you're wondering, hey, where's Naya? I had it at like number 15 here. No, it's actually number 5. It is up 6 spots from the last time I did this with 117,373 decks. It is the second biggest climber from the last time I did this. Now, why is that? Well, first of all, we got to look at the top commanders. Gishas Sun's Avatar, still number 1. I don't think that will ever change. People really like their dinos, right? 16,942 decks. It is likely always going to be the number 1 Naya commander, I think. Of course, it's been a powerhouse in the format since it first came out. Number 2, Atla Palani, 13,794 decks. Number 3, Rin and Siri, 13,000 decks. So again, we got 3 commanders with over 13,000 decks, some really, really popular ones. But already from last year, Pantlaza, Sun, favored 10,000 decks already on EDH Rec. It is easily the most popular commander from Lost Caverns of Ixalan last year. People really like this one a lot. I mean, this is a commander that only came out a few months ago. Already 10,000 decks on EDH Rec. It's one of the most popular commanders from last year already. So we have 4 commanders here with over 10,000 decks. But we're not done yet. Voja Jaws of the Conclave, of course, a commander that just came out a couple months ago, already has 6,678 decks. It is the most popular commander from Murders at Karlov Manor. So we have 2 commanders from 2 sets in a row that the most popular commander from them was a Naya commander. So that would probably explain quite a bit anyway of why Naya has climbed up so much on this list. Those 2 commanders alone. But still, even the 16th most popular commander here is Ural the Miststalker, still hanging in there as a Voltron commander, one of the most popular Voltron commanders of all time, of course, still has 3,200 decks. So that's pretty good for the 16th place commander in Naya colors. Naya's doing pretty good in the commander format. Not as good as Mardu, though, coming in at number 4, 120,111 decks. This is actually, however, down 1 spot from the last time I did this. That's right, Mardu came in at number 3 last time. And again, might be one where people are like, really? I don't know about that. Until you look at the commanders. Again, number 1, Ishin Two Heavens as 1. Another commander that I would say is a little surprising how popular it is certainly a good one. But man, 19,455 decks. It is the 6th most popular commander in the entire format. Oh boy, definitely didn't expect that one. And then of course, we got Edgar Markov coming in at number 2 with 18,314 decks. We're not done though. Kalia of the Vast, 15,752 decks. And of course, that's an insanely popular commander. We have 3 commanders here in the top 15 in the entire format in Mardu colors. So that is a big reason why this color combination is so popular, but Queen Marchesa's no slouch either, coming in at number 4 with over 11,000 decks. So 4 commanders with over 11,000 decks in Mardu colors, and that won't change, right? All those commanders I just talked about are always going to be really, really popular commanders, so that's always going to keep Mardu towards the top. We also got Mr. House, President and CEO, coming in here as well with 4,800 decks already. Again, this is a set that just came out, the Fallout set. Already a really popular commander in Mardu colors, so we're getting a lot of help here. And we also have Caesar Legion's Emperor, another Fallout commander with 3,475 decks. So Mardu has those really, really popular mainstays that will always keep Mardu up in the rafters as far as popularity goes, but we're also getting some new ones as well. My guess is it is unlikely Mardu will ever fall out of the top 5. Even better though, with a little bit of a jump this year, is Esper coming in at number 3, 123,814. This is up 2 spots from the last time I did it. What is the reason why? Well, Alila Artful Provocateur, still the number 1 commander here, but only 11,457 decks, right? So that is actually quite a bit lower than the top commanders from these other color combinations I talked about. Number 36 in the format, right? So the number 1 Esper commander is actually only the 36th most popular commander in the entire format. So not really even close to some of those other ones I just covered. However, number 2 is Aloro Ageless Ascetic, 11,000 decks as well, right? Not too shabby. Number 3, Tivit Seller of Secrets. Man, people like that commander a lot. That's got over 10,000. Next up, Urza Chief Artificer also has over 10,000, 10,507. And then we got Zur the Enchanter with over 10,000. So this is the first color combination we've seen that has 5 commanders with over 10,000 decks. Even though we don't have that super, super popular commander in these color combinations, we got 5 commanders that are really, really popular in the format, right? I mean, again, Zur the Enchanter, a commander that has been around since forever, still has over 10,000 decks. Pretty impressive. Our most popular commander from last year, Sadar Jabari of Zalfir, 9,200 decks. People loving that commander a lot. So Esper did get some help from last year as well. I don't think this is a big surprise for anybody. Esper is obviously always been a pretty popular color combination in the format and probably always will be. Coming in at number 2, which was a huge surprise for me last year, but of course now it's not because I'm used to it. Deir is the second most popular color combination from last year. The top 2 spots here are not different from last year. This is where Deir was last time, so I'm now not surprised by it. Last year, I was pretty shocked. The fact that it's more popular than Esper or Mardu or Sultai or any other is pretty shocking again until you look at the commanders. 131,892, and in fact, it's not even close. It's actually a huge jump from where Esper is in 3rd place. But when you start looking at the commanders, it makes a little bit more sense, right? So Yuriko, the Tiger's Shadow, the number 1 Deir commander, 19,745 decks. It is the 5th most popular commander in the entire format. Coming in at number 2, Wilhelt the Rot Cleaver, 18,224. It is the 9th most popular commander in the entire format. So we got 2 commanders in Deir colors in the top 10 in the entire format. Next up, Captain Nagathrod. That's right, this guy has 12,000 decks. Pretty darn good. Now, coming in at number 4 is Satoru Umezawa, which only has 9,800 decks. So we've already gone below the 10,000 mark, whereas the last couple groupings had more than that, right? However, this one really does sustain better than any other color combination. There is 13 commanders in Deir colors with over 5,000 decks. That's the most we've seen so far. Also, there's 23 commanders with over 2,000 decks, right? This color combination, as you get down the list, really, really sticks around. Arami of the Dead Tide is the last commander I included in this list, 3,695 decks. So there's almost 3,700 decks here from this 16th place commander. That is the most for a 16th place commander, right? That is why Deir is so high on this list. I mean, it's got some really popular commanders, obviously, some of the most popular entire format, but it also has ones that tend to stick around. I mean, we got Lord of the Nazgul, which came out last year, which is helping to sustain Deir as one of the most popular in the format. 7,300 decks already on EDH Rec. Alila Cunning Conqueror, another one that came out last year, already 6,500 decks on EDH Rec. So Deir is getting some help from last year, as well as having some of the most popular commanders in the entire format. So this shouldn't be that big of a surprise, I don't think. But of course, coming in at number one, and came in number one last time, and came in the number one the time before that, and will always be number one, is the color combination of all 5 colors. And again, by far, 186,765. So 55,000 more decks than is the second place Deir, just to give you an idea of how ridiculously popular 5 color is in the format. Leaves everybody in the dust by far. Kind of silly in my opinion. I think obviously the reason is, well, there's a couple of reasons. One being that a lot of people don't like the color restrictions, so I get to play every color. I don't have to worry about the cards that I put in my deck, and also we're always getting really, really powerful commanders. It seems like every set now, they gotta chuck another 5 color commander at us. I don't know, when's the last time we had a set come out where there wasn't a 5 color commander, right? It used to be a rarity. A 5 color card in Magic, period, was a very rare thing, and now we get them all the time. It's not even a special thing anymore. Of course, the most popular commander, as I already alluded to, the Dragon, is the second most popular commander in the entire format. 23,500 decks. Pretty incredible. But also, Kenrith the Return King is the 7th most popular commander in the entire format with 18,822 decks. And then we got now Jodah the Unifier, which is the 12th most popular commander in the entire format with 16,866 decks. How about Asika, God of the Tree, which I very correctly predicted way back when I first started my channel. I said would be the most popular commander from Kaldheim. It took a while, but it finally is. 15,893 decks. It is the 14th most popular commander in the entire format. We're not done yet though. Goshinte of Life's Origin, 15,310 decks, is the 16th most popular commander in the entire format. There are 7 commanders with over 10,000 decks. In the 5 color combination, there are 18 commanders with over 5,000 decks. Again, Deir had 13. That was the most, except for 5 color, which has 18. And there are 32 commanders. 32 with over 2,000 decks on EDH Rec. Again, 2,000 is the number where that's a commander that you are going to see from time to time, right? There's a lot of commanders in the format where you're just never going to see them. It's essentially a rounding error. In 5 color, there are 32 commanders that you are likely going to see from time to time. And in fact, 5 color is so popular in the commander format that it is exceedingly rare that you will never see them, right? You're gonna see them on a regular basis. That's how popular 5 color commanders are in the format. By far the most popular, and probably always will be. Those are the stats. The most popular color combinations in the format. By my calculations, again, this is the way I do it. I think looking at the top commanders gives a more accurate representation. What was the biggest surprise for you guys? Again, I did the comparisons from last year. We had a couple of big jumpers in Abzan and Naya, which jumped up the list quite a bit. We had a couple that dropped considerably. Boros and Bant being the 2 color combinations that dropped the most from the last time I did it. But the top 2 stayed the same, Deir and 5 color, the top 2 color combinations in the format. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below. That is it for today though, and thanks for tuning in.